In 1630, a group of Puritan settlers led by John Winthrop arrived on the shores of the Massachusetts Bay. They sought religious freedom and a new life. They chose a peninsula with a prominent hill, calling it Boston, after a town in England. The Massachusetts Bay Colony, with Boston at its heart, became a beacon of hope for those seeking a fresh start. The settlers established a strong community based on faith and hard work. They built homes, churches, and schools, laying the foundation for a city that would play a pivotal role in the shaping of a nation. Life in early Boston was challenging. The settlers faced harsh winters, disease, and conflicts with Native American tribes. Yet they persevered, driven by their beliefs and the dream of a better future. Boston soon became a bustling port, connecting the New World to Europe through trade. Ships laden with timber, fish, and furs sailed from Boston Harbor, bringing prosperity to the growing colony. As Boston thrived, so too did its reputation as a center of commerce and culture. The early Bostonians placed great emphasis on education. They believed that knowledge was essential for both spiritual and civic life. In 1635, just 5 years after their arrival, they founded the Boston Latin School, the first public school in America. This commitment to education would shape Boston's character for centuries to come. It also paved the way for the city's emergence as a center of intellectual thought and innovation. Despite its growing prosperity, Boston remained a city deeply rooted in its Puritan heritage. The strict moral code of the early settlers continued to influence daily life. However, as new generations emerged, so too did new ideas and challenges to the established order. These tensions between tradition and change, faith and reason, would eventually set the stage for Boston's pivotal role in the American Revolution. By the mid-18th century, Boston was a thriving port city, but tensions with Great Britain were simmering. The colonists chafed under British rule, resenting taxes levied without their consent. Boston, a city known for its independent spirit and intellectual vigor, became a hotbed of dissent. The seeds of rebellion were sown in the taverns, churches, and meeting houses of this vibrant city. A new generation of Bostonians influenced by Enlightenment ideas began to question the legitimacy of British rule. Leaders like Samuel Adams, a fiery orator and political activist, emerged, rallying the populace against what they saw as British tyranny. Adams, along with his cousin John Adams, John Hancock, and others, formed the Sons of Liberty, a secret society dedicated to defending colonial rights. The Sons of Liberty organized protests, published pamphlets, and staged public demonstrations to galvanize opposition to British policies. They understood the power of public opinion and skillfully used propaganda to sway the hearts and minds of their fellow colonists. One of their most effective tactics was the use of symbols and slogans, like the Liberty Tree, which became a rallying point for the growing resistance movement. As British control tightened, so too did the resolve of the colonists. The Stamp Act, which imposed a tax on all printed materials, was met with widespread outrage. Bostonians boycotted British goods, further fueling the flames of discontent. The streets of Boston became a stage for acts of defiance, as colonists clashed with British soldiers, setting the stage for a momentous clash that would forever alter the course of history. The Boston Tea Party, a seemingly simple act of defiance, became a defining moment in the lead-up to the American Revolution. In 1773, the British East India Company, facing financial difficulties, was granted a monopoly on tea sales to the colonies. This act, though intended to save the company, was seen by the colonists as a blatant attempt to control their economy and undermine their rights. On the night of December 16, 1773, a group of Bostonians disguised as Mohawk Indians boarded 3 British ships docked in Boston Harbor, the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver. They proceeded to dump 342 chests of tea, worth thousands of pounds, into the harbor. This act of defiance, witnessed by a large crowd gathered on the shore, sent shockwaves through the colonies and across the Atlantic. The Boston Tea Party was not just about tea, it was about principle. It was a powerful statement against taxation without representation, and a testament to the colonists' growing resolve to resist British rule. The British government, outraged by this act of defiance, responded with a series of punitive measures known as the Coercive Acts, which further inflamed tensions. The Coercive Acts, far from quelling the rebellion, had the opposite effect. They united the colonies in opposition to British rule. The other colonies rallied behind Boston, sending supplies and pledging their support. The Boston Tea Party, intended as a local protest, had ignited a firestorm of resistance that would culminate in the American Revolution. As tensions escalated between the colonists and British authorities, a network of patriots prepared for the inevitable conflict. Among them was Paul Revere, a silversmith and member of the Sons of Liberty, known for his speed and stamina as an express rider. On the night of April 18, 1775, Revere received intelligence that British troops were marching from Boston to Concord, where the colonists had hidden a cache of weapons. Revere set out on his now legendary midnight ride, galloping through the countryside, warning colonists of the approaching British troops. He rode through the quiet towns of Charlestown, Medford, and Lexington, alerting militia companies along the way. His cry, "The British are coming," echoed through the night, rousing the countryside to action. Revere's ride, immortalized in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, has become a symbol of American patriotism and the spirit of resistance. Although Longfellow took some poetic license with the historical details, the essence of the story captures the courage and determination of those who fought for American independence. Revere's ride, along with the efforts of other riders like William Dawes and Samuel Prescott, played a crucial role in mobilizing the colonial militia. The alarm sounded by Revere and others allowed the colonists to gather and prepare for the British advance. When the British troops arrived in Lexington, they were met by a small but determined group of Minutemen on the village green. The first shots of the American Revolution were fired, marking the beginning of a long and bloody conflict that would decide the fate of a nation.